Okay, hello everyone. We are live again with another Custom Magic Paranormal Set stream. Last week we were looking at the Phyrexian Praetors, and last night I got a little interested in, trying to translate for myself the Phyrexian script. So that's what I'm working on right now. Okay, this is another O. Or an aw sound. So interestingly, this makes sense, but I wasn't sure what they would do. So the first part of the Praetor's name, this part right here, this first line, this is Eleshnorn. So that's the name pretty phonetically as it is in English. So that was pretty easy to translate. However, this is not just Grand Cenobite, which makes sense because if Phyrexian is really its own language, they would have their own words for things. And so we would have to figure out how to translate that as well. But you could tell, like, this symbol right here that starts off the part that would say Grand Cenobite, this is exactly the same symbol as the SH sound from over here, from Eleshnorn. So it starts with sh, and I mean, I guess that could be like Shenobite, if that's how they pronounce it, something along those lines. But I think they're going to have their own words, actually. So then we'll have to try and figure out which part is Grand, which part is Cenobite. I mean, I don't even know what Cenobite means in English. It just sounds like, based on what I know of her, a religious title. That said, there have been some things that I haven't been able to figure out just by looking at the 5 Praetors. So some of the Praetors... Well, okay, so every piece of script starts with this line here. That is how they start a sentence. So this vertical line has no pronunciation. It just means that you're starting like a sentence or a line. But this symbol right after this downward slash with the little dash below it, that is also not a sound. Cenobite is actually a real word. Oh, really? I did not know that. A member of a religious group living together in a monastic community. Huh, the more you know. So yeah, because the white Phyrexians are very strongly like a religious cult, I guess they would all be Cenobites, and then she is just the Grand Cenobite because she's their leader. That's good to know. Based on what I've been able to figure out, I think that this symbol here that I was just talking about is like a glottal stop, which is just like the absence of pronunciation. And because it's used on Eleshnorn and Urabrask right at the beginning, both of which start with vowels. I need to... Oh, gosh. See, it's right there as well. So then I think it's just like glottal stop, and then there's a lot of these like triple lines that have, usually one of them is taller or has like a swoosh mark off to the side. Some of them are above the main writing line, some are below. I think those represent various vowels. But I also know that some vowels are not spelled out. For example, in Eleshnorn, based on the L in Shieldred and Vorinclex, I know that this symbol is an L. And I know that this symbol is an SH, also based on Shieldred. So there is no symbol in between these two. This one is just like a modifier to this symbol. I think without this modifier, and with a different modifier, this is an S sound, and then with this specific modifier, it's an SH. So there's no vowel in between the L and the SH, so sometimes they don't actually write out their vowels, which is something that many real-world languages do, but I'm not figuring out so far the rules for when they do and when they don't. And then you have to add in the fact that it's possible we're just mispronouncing her name in English. So maybe it's not Eleshnorn, it's just Elshnorn. And there is no sound between there. Linguistics is fun. I imagine thinking about it too, it might be more accurate to translate their names more so than their titles due to the former probably being proper nouns in phyrexian. Yes. So that's what I was starting off by saying. You can tell, like this symbol matches this symbol. Well, it would if I had written it well. It's kind of hard to write here. But here, you can see right here, this one matches this one. So this is probably N and N, N-O-R-N, and then this symbol matches the one at the start of Shieldred, so I think that's pretty clearly SH. So yeah, I think I agree. The proper nouns are the way to go because they still sound the same, so they're phonetically accurate, which we can't do with these because they're actually foreign words. Phyrexian card in the case files with no translation when. Oh man, that would be awesome and horrible. We cannot do that. But I am really enjoying trying to figure out what this means. And I'm not looking at any resources online or anything. I'm just sort of trying to do it by myself. Although any suggestions you guys have are certainly welcome. But I have a degree in Spanish, and so I studied a lot of, I took some linguistics classes, and I'm really interested in sort of the construction of languages. Phyrexian cryptic command, you can convince your opponent it does whatever you want. Well, how are they going to tell you otherwise? So, yeah, I've really been enjoying these. I wonder... We're getting, like, the Brothers' War and another set in that time period next year. I forget what the other one was. But, the Phyrexians were definitely around for a lot of that, right? So potentially, or, I mean, we expect to go back to New Phyrexia pretty soon, maybe in 2023. Dominaria United, followed by Brothers' War. Thank you. So, there could be more Phyrexian, like Phyrexian script cards, you know, either as, like, special throw-ins in the, collector's boosters, like alternate art treatments like they normally do for cards. And that would, I mean, every little bit will help us decipher this language a little bit more. Have you seen Workers Union in the Discord? I have not. Let us head over to the Discord. Actually, that doesn't need to move, since it's still in Scryfall. All right, let me pull up the Discord and take a look. That is a cute card, Wind and Wave. I like that a lot. I mean, I don't think it's it's probably too narrow to actually go in the set, but because I don't have an easy way to just pull it up on stream, it's an enchantment for 1 white called Workers Union, and it just has one line of text that says creatures can't be exploited. Dominaria United is present-day Dominaria shortly after the events of Dominaria as the 30th anniversary set for Magic the Gathering. Brothers' War is a modern retelling of a rather old MTG story. Yeah, pretty much the first story, right? Because I think, like, Alpha didn't necessarily have a story. It just had, you know, some lore in the background. But then Antiquities was the first expansion, and I think that was all about the Brothers' War. Well, do you count Arabian Nights? I would count it. Did that come out before Antiquities? Not that we can really go back to Rabia. Okay, cool. I wasn't playing back then, so I tend to maybe mix up stuff from way back when. I was like 1 year old at the time. I imagine Dominaria United would probably be our not core set for this year too, which does make sense, as it is literally the setting for Magic's first ever core set. Yeah. I've opened up a booster box older than I am. Ooh, boy. Must have been valuable. Anything that old is just valuable, even if it's not good. Except for maybe Homelands? Was it Homelands? It was Invasion, around $300 at the time. Okay. Just a few months older than me. Okay. I have to imagine that's still, like, an Invasion booster box is probably worth a lot more than $300 now. Cyber 5 suggests potentially turning the Can't Be Exploited, the Workers' Union card, into a Hate Bear at rare. Yeah, that could fit. You wanted to draft it? It was a great draft. I mean, I've heard that is a great set for draft. So, yeah, I've thought about maybe trying to turn it into a cube. Just because I've heard such great things. I mean, it has cycling and really strong tribal themes. Is that the one where the cycling goblin is like a first pick? Or no, maybe it doesn't have cycling. But at common, there's like a goblin where you like tap to deal damage equal to the number of goblins you control or something. So I recall that was like a mythic common in that set. Or I could be thinking of something else. I haven't actually played it, so I've just heard things. Win and Wave just finished making an AI-generated cube. Like an AI created all of the cards in the cube? I don't know. I picked one, a Cavu Titan and Wrecked Shop. Cavu Titan. It's like the huge green one, right? Oh, it's not huge. Oh. Okay. There was a Cavu in Dominaria that was basically just this. But I guess creatures were much worse back then. So the fact that this is an above rate creature, rather on rate at 2 mana and then above rate at 5 mana. That card got power creeped by an uncommon and dom. Yeah. But still, I mean, yeah, like I said, back then creatures were rough. So this was probably very, very good. Look at this card relative to other creatures in the set, and there's nothing that can compare. Okay, I might be thinking of something else. Must have been a different set that had the goblin I was thinking of. The AI mass-generated cards, and me and some other people picked the most functional cards. Okay, that's good. Definitely some curation feels like it's necessary. Okay. Well, I guess what I wanted to do for tonight was kind of just figure out our rare situation. So let me open up the spreadsheet for the set. Oops. Nope, not that one. Aha. An example of one of the green cards is an enchantment that exiles a land you control in exchange for gaining control of another player's soul for a turn. It is an aura that exiles the land it is attached to. Okay. Does controlling another player's soul mechanically do something? Or is it just kind of a flex? You gain control of the player. Okay, cool. That's what I thought maybe would be the case, but I was just checking. Okay, let's see. Okay. There we go. Hello, Gunblade. How are you doing tonight? Also, here's a quick mock-up of what I mentioned before. Worker Unionist. Whoop. Spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Players can't sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. So interestingly, this does not stop exploit, because it prevents players from sacrificing non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. But exploit is a triggered ability. So this can still work, it just doesn't actually work against exploit. A mythic 1/1 indestructible for 2 green. That's actually not bad, Wind and Wave. I mean, it's actually maybe oppressively strong in that there don't tend to be like a ton of ways to deal with indestructible permanents. There's not none, but you definitely really have to build around that. On the other hand, it's an indestructible card that doesn't win the game quickly. It just keeps you from losing. Is there any way you could word it so it works against exploits without it being too clunky or narrow? Maybe. I mean, we could replace one of probably like the first ability with just like creatures can't be exploited. We could, yeah. Gunblade has a good suggestion. That's where I was going next. Nobody can sacrifice non-land permanents. And that means that shuts down exploit without actually explicitly calling it out. And it still does all the other things that this card wants to do. Oh, and I didn't see that, but Pie Guy said the same thing as well. Hello, Pie Guy. Been a while. How are you doing? Well, there is a comparison for shutting down fetch lands in Modern, which is the Leonin Arbiter. And that one gives them a way out of it, so their lands aren't just dead. That said, I mean, even if it does completely shut down fetch lands, players could just, like, hate effects like these are sort of self-correcting in that people will reduce the number of fetches they play until Leonin Arbiter isn't an oppressive force in the format. And then Leonin Arbiter will get played a little bit less, and then the fetch land value will go up again, and then Leonin Arbiter goes up again, and then eventually they reach sort of an equilibrium in the middle. So you can just like hard shut down stuff, but good. I've been lurking a lot, but the set is coming along great. Now back to lurking. Good luck with the designs. Okay, well, thanks for showing up, Pie Guy. Always good to see you. Okay, so I'm thinking we just sort of map out which rares we want to have in our set. Obviously, it's going to be hard to get like a perfect map going, but I think we can at least try and plan some stuff out. Make sure we at least hit a lot of the good points. So even if we don't plan everything, we plan everything important and then just let our imagination take us to the rest of the stuff. Wait, I got 2 whites here. That explains it. Whatever. I'll take care of that later. Okay, so this is blue. Black. Red. Green. And that's 9 slots for each, so that takes us to 45, which leaves us with 8 more slots, so I should just delete one of these for gold/colorless. Yep. Good suggestion, Cyber5. Got there. Okay. Any advice on making rares? I never seem to have ideas for rares and mythics, probably from decision paralysis. Yeah, it's kind of hard because that's basically where you're allowed to do anything, and the main goal is just to make cards that seem splashy and fun. So I have some tips. For example, every Premier set tends to have a cycle of 5 dual lands. So if you want to be as accurate as possible, making a set just like WotC would, include 5 dual lands at rare. Now, the only reason that they are actually at rare is to sell packs, which WotC is a business. They need to sell packs. It's an understandable decision. But for custom sets, we're not trying to sell anything. Nobody's going to buy them. So we don't really need dual lands at rare. So what I like to do is put in 5 monocolored lands with special effects. So that's what we did with the Garth lands in here. White Garth land. Oops. "75% of my rares are just, hey, check out this rad thing you can do with this mechanic, and or so the set theme is X, and this card plays right into it." Yeah, that's the main thing that I look for is basically every mechanic I want to give a rare in each of its colors. And that's not a requirement, like WotC doesn't do that all the time, but I think it's kind of an easy place to start is just, okay, raid is in red and green in this set. Cool. We're going to have a red raid rare and a green raid rare. Say that 6 times fast. Or research is in white, blue, and black. Let's have at least 1 rare for each of those. I suppose one guideline we should have for half the rares too is make sure that each color has 4 rares tied to each draft type archetype it's a part of. Right. So each color has at least 1 rare for each draft archetype. So you open it, that rare, and you say, okay, I'm going to play red-white. You know, you open a red rare, and you're like, okay, I mean, this red card could go in other decks, but it's best in red-white, so I'm going to try and draft that. Yeah, I think that's a good start as well. So actually, let's write down some of these tips. Tips for, or ideas for rares. Okay, so No, I don't want you to be bold. For each color, and it's still bold. 4 rares that push you into the 4 archetypes. It's a great suggestion. Okay, not bold. There we go. This whole thing should be not bold except for you. Cycle of lands. Generally, 1 or 2 per archetype at least, or at least 1 really focused on said archetype. Yeah, we'll put minimum 1 each. And then that would obviously have overlap with for each mechanic, 1 rare in each of that mechanic's colors. And these are just guidelines. You don't have to do any of them. Most Premier sets also have cycle of rares that don't use set mechanics. This is generally for, like, if people don't really like the theme of the set, it just doesn't really speak to them, which is fine. Nobody likes every set. Then the idea is that you have a cycle of splashy rares that a player can open that still potentially excite them because they don't necessarily do what the rest of the set is doing. And often this will be just like the iconic creatures, you know, an angel, a sphinx, a demon, a dragon, or a phoenix, and a worm or a hydra. It's a good place to start. Okay, so yeah, we know we want the White Garthland. Actually, I guess name would be on the left. Yeah, so on the right we'll put the slot that it's in, and then on the left we'll put the name of the card, which once it's filled will show that we have actually designed that card. A bit unrelated to the current conversation, but did you go to any WoW pre-releases? I did. I went yesterday. Sunday was the only day I could make it. And, I do have my deck with me. It was pretty cool. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I got a little bit lucky because I opened a Dreadfeast Demon, which is one of the most busted cards in the set for Limited. And in my 3 matches, I drew it in 5 games, and I won all 5 of those games. But I also had other good rares. Hiveheart Shaman. That let me ramp into my Dreadfeast Demon and gave me some tokens to sacrifice to it. My last game, I got to use Howlpack Piper to put out the demon on turn 5 after putting in another wolf to sacrifice to the demon. I know we got the green mythic that puts lands on the battlefield too. Ooh, the Cultivator Colossus. That's like one of the most valuable cards in the set too. It seems pretty sweet. I was very, very surprised with how much work the Ceremonial Blade did. I'm sorry, I know my camera's bad and you can't really see that very well. But the Ceremonial Blade, or a knife, whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage, you get a blood. I just used that blood to dig through my deck for my demon. It was really good. I did 2 pre-releases. In my first one, I opened 4 mythics. Oh boy. I didn't open any mythics, but I just opened a bunch of in-color rares. So like I've showed you all this black-green stuff. I had old Rutstein, which is perfect because it ramps you into the demon. It gives you blood to dig for the demon, and it gives you creatures to sacrifice to the demon. So basically my entire deck was focused on getting my demon, and I did it in 5 games. What else did I have? Oh, I had like one of each black removal spell, I believe. I haven't checked to be sure, but at common I had Gift of Fangs, Grisly Ritual, Bleed Dry, and at uncommon, Hero's Downfall and Parasitic Grasp. So I just was able to like deal with everything my opponents were doing, which was awesome. Okay, you got Cemetery Illuminator, Cemetery Gatekeeper. Okay, I think those are the white and blue ones. Necroduality and a Promo Toxrill. Oh boy. Toxrill's ridiculous. Promo version's got to be worth some money too. I opened a Toxrill in one of my packs that I got for winning a match, and I was really excited about that because that seems like one of the most fun commanders in the set to me, so I might build that. So at that point, I think you're building blue-black. You may not be able to use the Necroduality based on just how many zombies you opened. I think that's the sort of thing you really have to be able to draft all the zombies you need for, unless you just got really lucky. You way underrated Toxrill. I didn't run it and ended up playing against it and got totally annihilated. Oh, yeah. I mean, I know it's 7 mana and it takes some time to get working, but even the turn it comes in, it shrinks all the damage you're taking by 1. So, like, as long as you can play it, you're probably not going to die the next turn, and then it's just accruing value from there. You missed that it procs each end step. Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Oh, yeah. Is it both your end step and your opponent's? So you thought it was just one person's end step. It is. It is every player's end step. I still think it would be very good if it were just your own, but it is even more ridiculous being both players. I don't necessarily... So I know you said you'd be interested to hear my thoughts on VOW Limited. I mean, I've played some drafts on Arena, but my pre-release was not a good indication of VOW Limited. Well, maybe it was. Literally, I played 7 games. I lost 1 due to flooding, which is fair. I kept a 6-lander, but I had my 1 spell had some blood tokens attached to it, so I thought I'll just loot into spells. And then I drew 6 more lands. So I lost that 1 game, and then I won 6 other games because I played my demon 5 games. So my experience was I just drew my good card every game, and I won. So I don't know. It does seem like there's quite a few unbeatable bombs. There's this one, Toxrill, Hullbreaker Horror, the green one, Averbrook Caretaker. And then Halana and Elena. So that's where my lands in my pre-release went. You just kept drawing them for me. Oh, I'm so sorry. We should have coordinated that better. Yeah, I was just like, I need lots of lands. Cyber 5 doesn't need them, so... I've only played pre-release, but personally, I really didn't enjoy any of the games I played. It feels like there's too much removal and nothing sticks around, except for the bomb mythics that can't be beat. I don't know. I feel like, on the whole, the removal's a little bit worse. At least at common, there's not quite as much top-tier removal, so I haven't necessarily had that experience. But I still haven't played that much. I did enjoy my games, but again, I was stomping, so I don't know if that's a good indicator of the format. And yeah, like, every format's going to have some bomb mythics, but is the number too high in this set? I think that may be the problem, but I haven't played enough yet to say for sure. Let's see. I definitely enjoyed it. You know what I'm enjoying more than I expected is blood tokens. I really just like being able to have some way to mitigate bad top decks. And it's not hard to get them. Black-green toughness tribal is the only exception. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a draft where I have some black-green toughness stuff going on. I lost the last game where I got it going, but still, it seems pretty cool. Like, I did gain 26 life with my phalanx out and then playing that wolf spirit. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I've been enjoying it so far, but I will always enjoy any format for the first couple weeks at least. So only time will tell if I actually think it's a good format or not. Blood seems pretty crazy. I know I was playing against someone who was able to get up to 7 blood tokens at once. They do seem pretty easy to set up. Yeah, they're really not that hard to get, especially if you have like Olivia's Attendants, who just creates as many as the damage they deal, which is so many blood tokens. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by blood. I made the same mistake evaluating Foretell in that I didn't identify it as a smoothing mechanic. Yeah, it really does. It just makes your game run smoothly. You know, as long as you use it judiciously, make sure you have the lands you need, and then no more than that. You just always get enough usually get enough spells. I did have that one game where I just cycled away lands and found more lands, but I got a little greedy. I kept a 6-lander, so my bad. Despite that, though, Audric is still lame. You know, Audric is... His ability is pretty much irrelevant and limited. I mean, you may get a blood token or two, but you shouldn't build around that. I know that it is kind of a lackluster ability, but I do at least like that he's doing his own thing. And in Commander, you can still build around him in a few different ways. You can build around the artifact tokens that he creates. You can build around Madness from the discard, or just playing out of your graveyard with a lot of Lorehold stuff. So I get he's a bit underwhelming, but I at least like that he's designed to be doing his own thing and he's not just copying other commanders. Because I feel like we have, with the huge number of legends coming out lately, we have a lot of repeats. I wish he had at least one ability. Yeah, I hear that as well. Like, he could have double strike or something. Basically gives all the cards in your hand cycling 1, which is very good on paper. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, Cyber 5. I think Odric could be a pretty neat red-white reanimator deck. That's a fun idea, especially with them printing more white reanimation cards. Yeah, like Helana and Elena are I don't know. They remind me a lot of Tuya. I guess they're kind of different. I don't know. I just really like that Audric is doing his own thing and not just copying other commanders, or at least being similar. So I get that he's lackluster. I agree. And I really loved his character and was really like sad when he became a vampire, but I don't know. I might try and build around him to prove a point, or maybe I already have a red-white deck, so I don't know that I need to build another. But people were comparing Helana and Elena as a budget Xenagos. Oh, that's fair. Xenagos is a lot more popular than Tuya Bearclaw. Yeah, I guess that's right. Xenagos is 1 mana more for an indestructible version. Yeah, he doesn't give counters permanently, but still. Honestly, it does feel like Boros does have a lot more interesting commander options as of late. Yeah, they've been doing a really good job with trying to reinvent them for Commander, because they were the worst colors in Commander. So I don't know. I respect that. I appreciate it. Helana and Elena plus Infect. Ooh. I mean, I just like infect. I mean, they do have first strike, so that's always fun. Okay. Well, let's see. What? Weird. Okay, so for white, research. White has research and white has exploit. Those are its mechanics. Blue has research. And it is slightly more undercover than anything else. We could do an undercover cycle. That's not quite a cycle that doesn't do the set's mechanic, but it could be cool. Black has exploit, actually research, exploit, and undercover. Red has raid. Green has raid and undercover. The point is you put counters on others based on Helena and Elena's power, not the usually 1/1 infect creature's power. Right, so what you're saying is like you have a, Glistener Elf, and instead of pumping the Glistener Elf with, if you put scale up on a Glistener Elf, it becomes a 6/4 infector. I think a 6/4 infector. If you put it on Helena and Elena, then you're putting, at the beginning of combat, Helena and Elena will put 7 counters? 6 counters? It's like making the spells permanent. Let me see if I can remember what scale up does. Yeah, base power and toughness 6/4. Instead of Xenagod doubling the creature's power. Gotcha. Or putting something like Colossification on them. Oh man, that's cool. That's really sweet. I like that. Or Eldrazi Conscription. Or Hydra's Growth. Yeah. I guess Colossification's a little cheaper for what, +20, +20? Yeah, okay. Colossification's maybe a little bit better than Eldrazi Conscription here. It's slightly more affordable, which can make a huge difference, and it gives literally twice as many stats. Wow. Nothing like giving a creature +22/+22 in haste. I don't think they give haste. Oh, they give haste? I've been playing Helena and Elena all wrong. I mean, I only had her in one draft deck, but still. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. All right, and then I guess we should take a look at what rares we do have. We tried to make an angel, because I actually had suggested an undercover rare cycle where it was just the iconic creatures, but all with an undercover version. We did have trouble coming up with a good version of this card, so we may need to workshop that or just nix the undercover cycle idea entirely. This is just a double striker. White often has double strikers, but it's not like a requirement. Okay, here we have the red-white guy. It's really annoying that these don't just stay. There we go. Okay. So we have Magnetic Confiscator, which is like a red-white payoff. Yes, we have an anthem. Actually, our anthem is also a green-white payoff. Not sure if Confiscator really fits the sacrifice theme. You make a good point. It fits the equipment half of the artifact theme, but that's actually, we're not just an artifact theme, we're a sacrificing artifacts theme. Which, I mean, we have some equipment as well, and you don't necessarily want to sacrifice equipment, so it fits the equipment half, but yeah, I do agree sacrificing could be good. There's also, or board wipe too. Oh yeah, board wipe, you generally just want a board wipe. And what is our board wipe again? Exile all creatures and all cards from all graveyards. Solid. Okay, this working overtime was also for the... I mean, it could be for green-white, because if you make artifact, like 1/1 tokens in that deck. Or it's more for red-white, because you can copy equipment. Or the 1/1s. Maybe a reanimate target permanent card for white, or save that for uncommon. We actually have something similar, which is, it's a 4-mana reanimation spell that is an artifact. So when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card. Currently it's just creatures, not permanents. Creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield and attach Mortal Coil to it. Whenever Mortal Coil becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent, but the equipped creature has indestructible. So you can only kill the creature by killing the equipment that is on it. Actually, we should probably go with Exile. Probably safer that way. That is true, just thinking of the new design space mentioned before, really. Oh, yeah. The new, like, Color Pie article, just saying that white can reanimate target permanent. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, primary. It is primary in reanimating a permanent. I mean, we could say permanent, return target permanent card. I guess only creatures can be attached to equipment, right? Well, we could redesign this as an aura if we wanted. Because, yes, this is an equipment, which kind of goes with the artifact theme in red-white, except you don't want to sacrifice it. So it's not really as much for red-white specifically. I mean, I think it's going to be a fine card in any white deck, but it doesn't necessarily inspire you to go that theme. Would we also go with a draw once a turn card for white too? We can. I don't know if that's necessary. I know that Wizards is doing that a lot lately because they're just trying to play catch up for white in Commander. But I don't think that, like, in general, that'll be a consistent thing going forward. Maybe for the near future, but I don't know if, like, every set needs a draw once per turn card in white. But if people want to, we sure can. Okay, exploit is by design going to be the, like, white-black payoff, just by virtue of the fact that that's the only color pair that has exploit. Okay, currently we have working overtime. Doubles tokens. And Mortal Coil. Reanimates creatures. Currently we have Grizzled Agent. And Undercover Angel. Though that does not need to be a thing. I feel like it might be good to have as a generally common thing in a set, just so that if there is a span of time where they don't print them, new players aren't able to get them because they didn't play earlier. Is Grizzled Agent a bear? That would be funny. It's not... It is a 2/2 for 3, so not quite. Make more bear-like. It's a good note. Another potential thing that you can do is 10 card gold cycle. I don't know why I capitalized just the gold, but nothing else. Or just a, like, 5 or 10 card legendary cycle. So those are other options for places to start. Okay, and then in blue we have Winx, who has Undercover. Okay, this card doesn't matter anymore because blue-red is no longer the colorless color archetype. So let's just delete that. If we did a gold cycle, though, we would need to cut some of the rares. That is true. Yep, if you want to do like a 5-card gold cycle, you have to cut 1 from each color. And if you want to do a 10-card gold cycle, you have to cut 2 from each color. So that does really trim down on your monocolor options a lot. I'm not saying we have to. I actually, I like when they exist. I don't think that it needs to be an every set sort of thing, though. That I tend to do. Basically a gold cycle of the draft archetypes. Okay, Gunblade is on board for that. Cyber5 says, I should ask, are we generally going into designing the rares already, or would you want to do the uncommons next? I think rares might be a good place to go next. We could go to uncommons, but according to the Nuts and Bolts articles, uncommons tend to get designed actually a bit later. Well, so they, like, some of your commons that get cut because they're too complex can get pushed up to uncommon. Some of your rares that get, cut from being a rare can get shoved down to uncommon. So it's sort of like a place where you can put things that don't quite fit elsewhere. So I feel like we might want to design our rares next, but we could do uncommons if people want to do that. I just honestly feel like it's easier to start with rares because there's slightly fewer of them, and it's easier to sort of map out what bases you need to cover. Like, I know this doesn't seem like a lot of direction, but the rare slots fill up pretty fast, and I feel like uncommons are harder to do. So that's my opinion, but whatever people want to do, if you would rather go to uncommons next, we can. Oh, mutants are a mechanic. That will also be the green-blue payoff, I suppose. Actually, it's not even necessarily a green-blue payoff, because while you would often want it in a mutant deck, this does not intrinsically tell you that you need to play mutants. It's actually just a fine card on its own. So this isn't really pushing you toward green-blue, despite having the green-blue mechanic. Because the green-blue mechanic is modular, you don't need to play more of them to make each one better. Fair enough, though personally I tend to mentally work sorting out my uncommons after my commons just to build up on complexity. Plus, once the general basic structure is set up, it does make it a bit easier to think of more weird ideas from there, springing off from other rarities. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I haven't gotten far enough into enough set designs to have like a good system in place. So I've basically I've really only completed one set on my own, and then Neil Devar. So up to 2, we're on the 3rd one for me. And I'm still definitely learning a lot about like what order you should take things in, or at least what order works best for me to take things in. So honestly, I don't care. I just went with rares because I thought it would be easier. So if you guys feel differently, we can certainly work on something else. So just let me know if that's what you want to do. I just thought mapping out rares would make sense, so I'm going to keep doing that unless you guys want to move on to something else. The only things I firmly recommend are start with the signposts / archons, then do commons. I mean, I haven't done that many true sets myself, but in general, small ideas like the mutants I made, I generally go from common to uncommon to rare, but that's just me, really. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I figured out in this set design that we need to do, that I need to do better in the future, and if I'm leading designs to have us all do, is we need to really map out the archetypes a lot more strongly than we did at the beginning. So we had an idea for here's what the archetype is going to be, but then we didn't actually sit down and just be like, okay, let's design all the mutant cards right now. What's the archetype going to look like? What are its cards at common, uncommon, rare, and mythic? I think it makes sense to design them all together, because we kept having the problem with Raid that we designed the same card 3 times separately. And I feel like we don't need to, we'll be able to avoid those sorts of problems if we just do it all the Raid at once. Figure out what the archetype is doing, and then that's that. We don't need to design more Raid cards. And if somebody proposes one later, we can look at which ones we have and to say, okay, we can replace one or we could add something, but it's a lot easier that way. Archon is another name for signpost. I've not heard that before. That is good to know. It stands for Archetype Uncommon. Oh, thank you. I was trying to figure out where that name would have come from, so that makes sense. So, would Arcra be Archetype Rare? Granted, my design process can also do things like make a bunch of different ideas, and then once I make a critical mass, start slotting them into the skeleton, fill in any holes I have, and save any designs that didn't make the cut for later use. Honestly, Cyber5, I think that's a fine way to do it if it works for you. I think that's often how I do stuff too. It's just that when I'm leading a bunch of other people in doing it, that's not going to work out great, because other people can't necessarily keep track of what's in my head. So I need to try to be more organized, which I'm slowly I think, improving on. So we have a mutant. The Thing. Analog. We'll probably need to change the name. We don't have that many blue rares. Okay, we have Propaganda. I'm not sure that it fits with what our set is doing. This actually was probably designed at a time when I was more set on just having artifacts with tap abilities that do fun stuff over time. I don't think I designed this card, but it still fits with sort of my vision of what things were going to be. But now I don't think it does. So we could cut this. I remember vaguely Chrono Displacement and being excited about it. Enchant player, your permanents, right, don't untap during your own untap step, but they do untap during the opponent's untap step. I think this is at least an interesting rare. And if we can include some ways to go off with it, that would be cool. So I do like this one. Weird stuff. Oh no. There we go. Okay. I just think for rares we can make a general structure like this to get the ball rolling, though we probably could stand to not use it to a T and have it change as needed just so we can have people organically come up with interesting, unique designs we can find ways to put in if they're good enough. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we can come up with the skeleton, and we don't necessarily have to fill it right now, but we can mark cards that could potentially be cut and mark which spaces are just sort of flexible and we can add anything. And then whenever anybody comes up with a cool idea, we can throw it in there. So I agree we don't have to like do all the rares right now, but I think coming up with a good idea of the basics that we want is good. So we do have Ixodries. Which, like, I suggested sort of as a joke. Agreed, generally rare are less cut and dry and more based on a bit more creative expression. Yeah, as they should be. You need your rares to be awesome. Or at least, like, exciting to someone. Yeah. Because if people are opening... Oh gosh, you can't even see the cards that I'm going over. Yeah, you just want your cards to excite people, you know, your rares, because like that's the main card that people are interested in when they open a pack of Magic cards. It's like, oh, what's my rare? And you really want them to be like happy about the card they got. I want to ask too, for cards that we have that turn other permanents face down, do they become undercover creatures or just normal morph creatures? I believe we don't have many. Currently, I think we have 2 cards in the set that turn other cards face down. Currently, as it stands mechanically, for example, Ixodries does not give any card undercover or morph or anything. However, if the card that gets turned down with Ixodries has one of those mechanics, it'll still function as usual. So if it turns a morph creature down, you can always pay to turn that morph creature back up. If you turn a undercover creature face down, when it dies, it'll go to exile face down, and you can play it later. So currently, I think that's the simplest way to do it, and I know that's still complex. But if you want, we could like have it grant those abilities. It just might be hard to track. Honestly, thinking about it, isn't this card a bit of a break in the color pie now? Oh, you're talking about because they have taken away rapid hybridization type effects. Yeah. At least a bend. Maybe a break. Well, considering that they took away rapid hybridization type effects because it was like undermining blue's weakness, I think this would be closer to a break. They do still have Kasmina's transmutation, but those are on auras, which you can remove. Also, what I was saying before is we don't even need to have this card. I did suggest it as kind of a joke because we were up to like board wipes in 3 colors, and I was like, here's what a blue board wipe would look like. Even though it might just be like bounce all creatures, but I think this falls into cards can be acceptable bends when drawing into space the color used to have in Pi. Okay, I like that you clarified that with can be acceptable. Because without that, you could just justify anything, since the old days of Magic were the Wild West. I suppose it would work if it did give them undercover, since you can just cast those creatures afterwards too, though we have a lot of sweepers already if you want to narrow it down. I mean, I think it's a cool card. I don't know that we need it in the set. How about an enchantment that basically makes them manifest? So it turns them face down, and then if it's a creature, people can like pay their mana cost to turn them back up. That would let you turn up your undercover cards as well. So it'd be like when card name ETB, if you mean when it enters the battlefield, it still turns things face down. Stop it. Turn all non-token creatures face down. Players may turn creatures they control face up at any time by paying their mana cost. This is definitely not the right wording. Let's take a look at what Manifest says. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. Anytime for its mana cost. Thank you. Currently, as worded, I think this does let you turn... like, if an enchantment were face down... like a... or no, we have sorceries in the set that have undercover. So if a sorcery were face down, I think this does let you turn it face up. Because it's a creature when you activate the ability. Or like... what? It's because it's a face down 2/2. If it's a creature card, players may turn. Players may turn face down creature cards they control face up at any time for their mana cost. For their mana cost doesn't sound right, but for its doesn't jive with the plural over here. Then this actually does kind of function as a like mass bounce spell, which blue does get. Because instead of returning them to your hand, it just turns them into a smaller power, or potentially smaller version of the creature until you pay its mana cost. So that's actually kind of cool design and definitely back in color pie. Because it just functions as a weird bounce spell. Players may turn face down creature cards they control face up at any time for its mana cost. Templating is weird in the second ability. Okay, and then is 2 blue appropriate for this? Well, if you bounce it back to your hand, what can your opponent do then? It's a good point, or if you sacrifice it. We would still have to template this to get around the sorcery thing, but... Just occurred to me, maybe do the original design just in white. Call it standardize. Probably should be a part of the first ability since O-Ring has some loopholes that can be used. Yeah, I thought of that, Cyber 5. The problem is that with O-Ring, it's very easy to track which creature or card was exiled with O-Ring. Or, I guess, Banishing Light is the fixed version. You can track which card easily to bring back as soon as O-Ring's gone. But, with this card, if it enters the battlefield and turns 4 creatures face down, you have to keep track of those 4 creatures for the rest of the game until Ixodrize leaves. Like, if somebody plays a different undercover card later, that isn't affected by this. So then, when Ixodrize leaves, you have to remember that one doesn't get turned face up, but the rest of these 4 do. And that's too difficult to track. Cyber5 says it probably just isn't worth putting it in the set at this point, really. I give that a weird inflection, but yeah. I'm inclined to agree. It's very complicated to get it perfect, but it's not a bad suggestion, so I don't know. I guess we can at least keep it until we have something better to replace it with. But we may keep the version that Gunblade suggested, unless we like Sorcerer's suggestion, which is just to put the original effect into white. We do have a white board wipe already. I did just also have a thought for this design for the rares too. Skin Snagger. It's a 2/1 for black that can't block. 2 and a black, sacrifice another creature to turn Skin Snagger face down. And then it has Undercover. Interesting. Though I do like the board wipe we have for its simplicity, too. Yeah, it's kind of nice. That said, most board wipes they do tend to be just, very simple. And, they don't tend to, make a lot of board wipes with set mechanic on them. So, it's completely fine, just boring. Oh, I agree. It is boring. We could make it more interesting if we want, which I generally like to do. But yeah, I was just noticing they don't tend to print a lot of interesting board wipes, at least not in Premier sets. At least not the mono white rare versions. So, okay, but Sorcerers and I both like Cyber 5's Skin Snagger idea, so that's kind of cool. This is a white-black payoff, even though it has Undercover. Actually, I guess it would go here. And then we can just put these words in here. or more of a black-green payoff. I mean, it could be. You're right. I was thinking white-black because it has more creatures to sacrifice, but green-black has undercover creatures to sacrifice. So undercover, white-black, black-green. So it could push you into either of them. Okay, and then, yeah, let's actually put it in Skin Snagger. Oops. Creature, skeleton, card name can't block, 2 and a black. Sorry, 2 and a black. And then undercover. Okay, got there. Oh, 2-1. Cool. So that actually fills a lot of roles. It has undercover. It can push you into white-black or black-green. It also fills the slot that they often have of Self-Reanimator. Just a small black creature that brings itself back from the grave. I guess in this case, it's never technically going to the grave, but we should also make some cheaper rare cards in each color too. We should also probably change these white rares so that they're not all double white. It's a bit excessive, but that's a later problem. That's not something we need to work on right now. Okay. Well, we did get through all the blue ones. Looks like we do have some other small black ones. No, you don't have to reveal it. This is a tutor, so I can cut that. Cool. So we have our tutor. That's a card type that they often have. Yes, you do, to prove the mana value. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. Thank you. I was just thinking black tutor. You don't have to show it, but you're right. It is based on your research counters. Okay. Oh, we did talk about a 5-card cycle of rares that care about colorless creatures or colorless things in general. It's in black's color pie to cheat. Well, okay. So last time we made Retastrophe, or maybe it was the time before, we did already have a board wipe in black. That said, I don't think that it fits much anymore. I'm not sure it ever did. But I guess this does care about colorless creatures, kind of. In that it kills all creatures that are not colorless with an appropriate mana value, but that is kind of narrow in what it can kill. I know we were thinking about a Rat King card too, maybe as a legendary. I believe we have that in the case files, don't we? We do. It's a weird... I'm not sure if it's a version that's worth putting in because it is super strange. Hold on, I have to set this. Reset this. Yeah, you're right. Nothing's solidified. There we go. Because currently, its current version is a meld card in the case files. And it melds with Rat Horror, which is both a token and a vanilla common in the set. And the idea is that you would be able to meld with either of those. And that is very complicated, but it would be pretty dope. So, that said, Rat King is a cryptid, and so I feel like I don't think the rules would allow you to meld with a token. I don't think the rules would allow that either. That said, it would be pretty awesome. Tokens won't work because you'd have to exile the token and it won't come back. Yeah. Like, the token itself won't come back, but it's kind of like the backside of the token. I understand it doesn't really work within the rules. I just think that it theoretically could. Or is awesome enough to potentially buck that trend. But this is just one design of the card that we came up with. I'm not like dead set on this or anything, so you just have a decapitated meld card. Yeah. So yeah, this does not have to be our version of the Rat King, but we do want a Rat King. But it is a cryptid, so I think it makes sense in the case files, even if it's not this version, which is perfectly fine. That said, I should maybe be making a list of cards we want in the case files too, right? Okay. Rare skeleton. Case file skeleton. Guess let's just copy it all over and then empty some stuff. Is there a way to empty them without deleting the cells? Oh, whatever. Can I just... Okay, I can just hit delete. Cool. Granted, I think cards for the case files are probably a whole other can of worms in terms of design, too. Yeah, we're definitely trying to do weird stuff with them. I know that the melding with a token may be a bridge too far, but that is sort of the idea. So black. Rat King. All right, and then back to our main set rares. Okay, so here's our research rare. It's basically a way to get a ton of research, and it gets buff, and is just a menace creature. This might just be good in any deck, and might not reward you for research, like make you want to go into research enough. But I guess just having an easy source of research makes you want to play those research cards. Seems a bit too good. Well, it's definitely a very easy source of research, and it grows out of control pretty quick. Let's compare it to... Let's see how that creature from Kaladesh looks. Let's see, it was an uncommon, color black, set Kaladesh. Okay. There it is. Fretwork Colony is a 1/1 for 2. Can't block. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on Fretwork Colony, and you lose 1 life. That one couldn't block, I believe. So yeah, our card is better in a few ways. Instead of not being able to block, it has menace. Instead of just getting a +1/+1 counter, it gives you research, which is useful in other ways, and then also gets +1/+1. So it's similar, but ours is probably a bit better, although there were some +1/+1 counter synergies in Kaladesh. Hello, Mars. How are you doing today? Probably should make it a 3 or 4 drop. That's fair. I mean, it does... Like, if you have any research already, it comes down a bit larger. So do we even need to buff the stats at all? If you don't have any research, it starts off as a 1/1 for 4, and then turns into a 2/2 by the time it can attack. It's a little bad, but obviously if you're playing with other research stuff... I mean, this is just a kind of a free source of research every turn. Maybe make it legendary. Oh, because I missed your first thing. Also, multiples would be so good with this versus the colony. That is a good point. Do we have another legendary black creature? We do. I don't think everyone was sold on this card, though. I'm not sure I'm sold on it. Okay, so do we like the look of this? Might want to give it some extra spice if we made it legendary. Okay. How about Plague Doctor and rats? Well, we'll change the name, but this creature and rats you control get +1/+1 for each research counter you have. Adds more to the rats theme. Gives it some interesting spice if you wanted to make it a commander. That's just one suggestion. If you don't like it, that's okay. We can try and find something else. I am going to get some more water, so I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Cyber5 has suggested perhaps taking away the menace just to narrow down the focus. I guess for Commander, we do also want to think about the fact I don't think there is an actual Rat Lord card right now. A cursory Scryfall search would suggest Piper of the Swarm is the closest. Oh, you mean no official card? Interesting. There's also the Gatecrash rare that gives rats Death Touch. Thank you, Ogre Slumlord. Marrow-Gnawer gives them fear, but nothing that gives them plus whatever. Got lost in the Kamigawa. It's easy to do. There's so many legends there. So we do want to keep in mind for Commander, this is going to stay grown every time you cast it. So like you play it the first time, and say it stays alive for 2 turns, so you get 2 research counters off it. It's a 3/3. Well, next time it comes down, it's a 3/3. You keep that research for the whole game, and your commander is therefore going to stay permanently larger. It's like experience counters. Thinking about it too, we should change the trigger. Maybe having to sacrifice a creature to get a research. That's a reasonable point. Why at the beginning of your upkeep? Why not something else that you can build around? My favorite rat tribal lord is Skithrix. That's reasonable. Well, this does make it more exploity, which is what White-Black is doing with in this set, and they both have access to research. We did just put in Skin Snagger, which also wants you to sacrifice a creature. So we don't want too many that require you to do that, but though granted, we also have the Mythic Cycle for Research Commanders too, so I'm not sure if this is stepping on their toes a bit. That is fair. I don't remember what the black one does. Whenever you sacrifice another creature during your turn, you get research. This ability triggers only once each turn. As long as you have 13 or more research, which feels extremely high to me. Card name has Death Touch, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. It also has Trample, and Flying. So it's going to be hard to block all that. Maybe we should design a different, non-legendary creature. Give me a bit for that, I'll think of something. Fair enough. I am not, too attached to this design. The main thing is, we do want something that cares about research, although it doesn't have to be whatever card you design. We just do want something at rare that cares about research. Probably. I guess we don't have to. Okay. So we have Lifebane Demon, which is the one we all know and love. If a player would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. Pretty cool. I like this one a lot. Whose suggestion was this? Sorcerers or Cyber5? Was it one of you? I guess I didn't put... I haven't been putting credit on the other stuff. It's hard to keep track of. It wasn't me, I know that. Okay, cool. But you did do Skin Snagger. Okay. So I don't think we need both Sanitize and Ratastrophe. Do we like Ratastrophe? Turns all creatures into rats. Actually, this plays very similar to the Ixodrize card, doesn't it? Except, I mean, it doesn't turn them down. I like it better than Sanitize. So I think I just want to cut Sanitize, unless anybody has any strong affection for it. I think Ratastrophe is technically a white effect now. Is it? I know that I think they did one recently that turns them all into spirits, right? Destroy all creatures. Oh, create. Oh, token? Can't be that many cards that do that. Kurtar's Wrath. Phyrexian Rebirth did it back in Mirrodin Besieged. March of Souls is the card I'm thinking of. That card's really old. Is there no more recent version? I thought there was. This is an effect that could work in either white or black, in my opinion. I think it's... At least compensation removal is considered white now, but it'd be a pretty minor bend for black. Yeah, you're right, Defiant Mars. That was in the article. Compensation. Destroy target creature. Its controller gets compensation. Okay, it's not... It's like... Oh, they must be hidden in here. Yeah. So currently, white is the only color that does that. Oh, Martial Coup. Thank you, Gunblade. That slipped through my search. Stop it. Martial Coup. Because it says destroy all other creatures. It is pretty funny to make a horde of rats. Yeah, so I guess the question is, could we do this in white but still make black rat tokens? I mean, there's cards that make other color tokens with relative frequency. Like, that's not that unheard of. I guess it does feel more black, though, doesn't it? I also don't know how to cost it. Is it better and thus should cost more because it lets you replace your maybe small creatures with 2/1s, which may be better? Like if you have just like a bunch of 1/1s. Or is it worse because if your opponent has a bigger board than you, you still may just lose to their horde of 2/1s. I think it's worse because it I think it's worse overall than a normal board wipe. So I think maybe 4 mana is okay for it, but it's hard to say really. I mean, we could go black-white. If we want to throw in some gold rares, which I know Gunblade said, that you were on board for. But this isn't really like a signpost card either. It's just a utility spell. I think I'm fine putting it in mono black, unless anyone has a problem with that. So we can make it either like 2 black, or like 4 black. Interestingly, this also works well for you if you are playing undercover, because it destroys your 2/2s while giving you 2 1s, and then you get to bring back those 2/2s as their bigger side. So it'll play better in black as well. I guess they don't tend to do board wipes for a single color of mana. Do they? Okay. Well, let's just go with that for now. I like it. Killing Wave. Ah, you're right. Toxic Deluge. Yeah. I don't know if that one can count, because it's not... When was the last time it was printed in Standard? Oh, never? Okay. So, Killing Wave can potentially count. I wouldn't count Toxic Deluge. I guess I did not just ask for Premier Sets, but that is what I meant. Killing Wave isn't like a hard board wipe. But yeah, I guess in general, I think it's still probably best practice to put double color. Okay. Anything else that we missed? I put down... Oh. So here's our other legendary creature. Here's your suggestion. Here we go. Oh, hey. It's a 3/1 for 3, which is what I was just about to go over. All right. Immoral Crony. It's a 3/1 for 1 black. Creature, human warlock. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. If you lose 4 or more life this way, you get a research counter. Aetherize is kind of another 1-color pip wipe. That's a good point. Oh my gosh, I have too many things open. Yeah. It's very, very conditional on what it can get, though. I guess it may be better to say, do they do unconditional board wipes for a single pip of mana? But then we have to ask ourselves, is Retastrophe conditional or unconditional? Black prefers to view itself as amoral. That's true. It's not that they are bad, it's just that they disagree with the concept of good and bad. So other people may view them as bad, and they may be bad from that perspective. But from their own, I mean, they're neither. Okay. Okay, so you're trying to make this more like a Bob type of deal. That's no longer legendary, and it is a human warlock. So basically, the design's a dark confidant that makes you want to lose a lot of life for a change. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, and it's 1 black, black. Okay, so it's a source of research. It's not a consistent source of research. It is a consistent draw engine. So it is not a payoff for research either. So I guess I wouldn't probably count it as like a research card. I guess it could count as one for like if we just want to have like a black research card. I'm not as sure that I would count it for that because it doesn't necessarily do that much if you just don't draw big cards off it. But that is interesting. How does everybody else feel about this? Do you like this design better or worse? It is a Bob at the very least, so that's good for something. Oh, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad design or that it would be a bad card. Actually, I would love to play this in Limited because it's a Bob, and Bobs are good. I mean, at least you do get something if you lose a lot of life. I guess you also just get a big spell, but... I mean, I think it's fine. It does also enforce more of a controlling research playstyle for blue-black too. Okay, that I can get on board with. Because that is definitely what blue-black wants to do. White-black also tends to be more controlling. So just like slowly accumulating research to do big things. Okay, yeah, I'm on board. Cyber 5. Okay, we do then want to move on to this card, which is a 3-mana 3/1. So it has Exploit, and then when card name exploits a creature, the next spell you cast from exile this turn costs 13 less to cast. Basically, the idea being you get to play your stuff from Undercover for very, very cheap. This one is pretty meh. Facetaker is absolutely a constructed plug, but I love it. It is. It really is. That said, I can envision doing some very interesting things with it. You know, for 5 mana, you play it on turn 5. 3 for the Facetaker. You sacrifice your. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, you sacrifice your typical pet. Oh. It's only 5G. So for 4 mana. On turn 4, you can... Turn 3, you play this as an Undercover. Turn 4, you play the Facetaker, sacrifice this, and then play it for just a green. So that's, like, a little abusable. So it feels sort of like a Feast or Famine sort of card where it's either going to be like broken or pretty bad. And that's not like a recipe for a fun card because usually on either end of the equation, someone's not having fun. So yes, we could redesign it from the ground up if we wanted. I thought for a second you were going to say we need to make typical pet a 13 and a green. I mean, that would have the same problem. because cost gets reduced by a lot. Wouldn't change anything except for that this card would be bad. We could also, we went with 13 because it's like, ooh, the spooky number. But we don't have to. It could be like 5. It could be... Do we still want it to be... There? Well, I guess it depends. If we're trying to keep the base concept of the card, the idea was it lets you sacrifice your undercover creature that's on the field already, so that then you can do fun stuff with it from exile immediately. We don't have to have it play that way, but that was the idea that the play pattern would be. Whatever, just pretend that last sentence made sense. We also made a card that cost 13. Oh, was that in the case files? Let me see if I can find that. Huh. I don't see it. It's not here. And it's not in the case files. So maybe either we removed it, or it didn't save, or maybe we just talked about it. I remember talking about it. With the name and the exploit, it kind of makes me want to do something Lazav-esque. Yeah, I guess the flavor of the thing is also, well, the original The Thing, from the movie, is also very Lazav-esque. But... Yeah, we could totally redesign it if we think that's better. This creature enters the battlefield as a copy of a creature card in exile. No, thank you. I don't think we shall be doing that, shall we? Okay, thank you. So, we could just delete all that. We can keep the name, we can get rid of the name. This doesn't have to be a legendary creature at all. We could just start over. Unless you guys have any specific ideas. It could be something that says, whenever you cast a spell from exile, do a thing. And then that works with Undercover in the set, and it works with other stuff like Rebound in Modern. I mean, assuming it were to be played there. Destroy target creature. Maybe having any Undercovers that day be cards you can immediately cast for free. That die be cards you can immediately cast for free. So, like, whenever a face-down creature you control dies... I meant to type die for that. Okay, cool. Just trying to figure it out. So you can immediately cast for free. The automod stopped me for that reason. Ah, I see. I was going to say, have you been playing mid/vow? I have. I played a lot of drafts for Midnight Hunt, and I'm on my like 4th draft for VOW, and I did a pre-release yesterday. So I've been playing a pretty solid amount. Oh, to Cyber 5. Day. Got it. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to template that. Whenever a face-down creature you control dies, if it had undercover, you may return it to the battlefield face up. Like, you wouldn't actually have to cast it, or we could make it a cast if we want. XL target day or night, it becomes night or day. Or, yeah, we could do something kind of Lazav-esque. I do like Lazav's flavor. I think he's a very well-designed card. The first Lazav? Yeah, the first one. I also do just kind of like this. It's a payoff for Undercover, even though it doesn't necessarily do all that itself. Oh, sorry, Cyber 5, I didn't see you suggest that. You may cast it as though it had flash and without paying its mana cost. Okay. What is your strange idea for a card? You may cast the spell as though it were a copy of another spell you've cast this turn. Oh, that's very, very cool. So that's a blue rare. Or possibly red. Probably blue. I mean, I guess that makes it sound like a creature, but... Probably blue, maybe a case file card. Oh, that's a good point. Maybe have it be a creature so it has a base form you can cast it for. It is a May after all. That's where I was at. I was like, does this need a card type? Does this need a mana cost? I mean, I think it at least needs a card type just so the other cards can like search for it or care about it. But I don't think it needs a mana cost. Unless we do want to have it like be a creature. That's cool though. I think creature would be cool. Okay, this does sound like a case file. Let's... Card type, a magic card. Alright, let's see. Case files, come on in. Alright. blue. Then, I don't know, rare blue. Oh, we'll figure it out. Spell parasite. Yeah, the case files are kind of a mess because we didn't come up with like a skeleton for them, so we just kind of have like a lot of ideas and not much organization. But we will get to them eventually. So like you could cast it at instant speed if you're copying an instant. Maybe make it like a small flyer. That makes sense? Okay. Yeah. Did the Mystical Archive have different rarities? Yes. Flying, not flyer, thank you. Sorry, I was distracted. Yes. Sort of. Oh, the Mystical Archive did. It had uncommon, rare, and mythic. And we were just going to do the same sort of deal, and probably around the same number of cards. This is such a weird card. I love it. It's a really good idea, Cyber 5. So I'm trying to figure out like the wording for like, I feel like we need some reminder text here for like what you can do, because you could cast it as an instant if the spell that you're casting it as was an instant. It could be an enchantment as well, and then just like stay on board as a copy of another enchantment, kind of. Oh man, this is weird. But you're always still paying the same mana value that you paid for, like, yes, you're still paying the same mana cost you paid for the other one. So it's never going to be like broken. It just gives you a second copy of a card that you want. So it can like clone the removal spell you have in hand. But if you don't have anything good in hand for it to copy, it is just a 1/1 flyer, which is acceptable but unexciting. You definitely need copies of permanent spells become tokens. Thank you. Well, it'd be this card, wouldn't it? Yeah, I was trying to figure that out myself. I'm really not sure. So you wouldn't need it to say anything about tokens. The thing is, it's the other spell on the stack. It's not like a clone where it's coming in, entering the battlefield as a copy of it. It is like the spell is actually a copy of the other spell. So I'm not sure. Provided I can count today, it looks like Mystical Archive had 18 uncommons, 30 rares, and 15 mythics. That'll be 48, 63. I believe it was 63, so that sounds right. This card is becoming a copy of the spell, not making a copy of the spell. Correct. It's a good point. You may be right about that. I feel like I need some reminder text for what you can do, but I can't think of how to word it that makes any sort of sense. Okay, let's just... Should it have flash, too? I guess it could. Thing is, as it is currently worded, I believe you can cast it at instant speed if the card you're copying is instant speed, because you put it on the stack, and by the time it checks to see that you actually could cast it, it has now taken on the instant property or the flash property of the spell that you were casting. But that's like in-depth rules that people are not really expected to know. So I guess we could put on flash just for clarity's sake, but then you're being allowed to copy a permanent spell at instant speed. Or, sorry, a sorcery speed spell. Well, yeah, permanent. Which will generally just be on your turn, unless that spell has flash. Maybe this makes sense. That might clarify some things. Okay, that's probably good enough. I guess let's go back to the main set. We were in black. Oh yeah, the face taker. I'm going back to this. I think I really like this trigger whenever you cast a spell from exile. So if this is a legendary creature, this is like a pretty wide open trigger that you could do several things with in Commander. Obviously, it works with Undercover in this set, but works with other things elsewhere. What would we do, though? Like, what would the ability actually do? Like, it could be a tutor. Maybe you could have a small reward and have a way to steal opponents' cards that you can cast from exile. Oh, okay. Have a way to steal opponents' cards and then cast them from exile. Okay. Gonti Plus, for as long as it remains exile. Hold on. Let's go actually look at Gonti. Use its wording. You may look at that and Look at and cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, Gonti is pretty wordy. Like, look at that chunky text. What if it's just wide open? The price of luxury. Create a 6/6 black horror creature token. Seems kind of big. We can make it smaller if that's appropriate. I don't know. I think it might just... This ability only activates once each turn. I thought about that. But I know some people are a little salty about that. XX, where X is the mana value. That's a good idea. Where X is the mana value. Is that spell's mana value? Most horror tokens are XX. Yeah, I haven't actually looked. Horror creature token. Okay, 1/1. Corpse Swept gives an XX. Chainer's Torment gives an XX. I guess all of the Eldrazi horror 3/2s from Eldritch Moon, but Spoils of Blood gives an XX. Okay. The biggest hard-coded value is 4/4. Interesting. Yeah, so we already have like a rat horror token in the set, which is just a 2/1. I think that makes sense flavorfully. But yeah, I like that XX suggestion from Gunblade. What do we think? Do we like this design? Do we want to change the stats? The mana value? Do we want to give it an ability? This works, I think. Maybe Death Touch too. Metallurgic Summonings, that's the one I was thinking of. Oh yeah, I played with that one in Standard. That was fun. Okay, yeah, this seems cool. I guess it's a little awkward in that it takes up your 3-drop slot, which is also when you want to be playing your first undercover creature. That's not the worst thing, though, because you can always like play this on turn 6 and then play a 3 mana card from exile, like Average Joe, and then also get a 3/3 along with it. Maybe make it a 4 mana 3/3. Or a 2 mana 1/2. I kind of like smaller. What do you guys think? Is this too efficient? Okay, seems cool. We could also make it a 1/1. We can look at other similar Death Touchers for reference. Yeah, I'm not sure about like rare Death Touchers. Here's a 2/2 for 2 with Flash and Death Touch. So it could even ambush a creature. This is probably fine. Okay. Cool. I like this design. Pretty sweet. I'm not sure if the name still fits, but it's something we can work on later. Cool. Let's put this in our skeleton. Okay. This is an undercover payoff, which is like blue-black, mostly black-green. All right, so we did the Lifebane Demon. We haven't done Reanimate Payoff yet. Let's see. Whenever Reanimate Payoff or another card is put onto the battlefield from your graveyard, you get a research counter. I think that's too narrow. It both wants you to reanimate and be playing research. So I'm just going to cut that. It wasn't even a complete card design anyhow. Okay, we got the Skin Snagger, we got the Catastrophe, we got Demonic Observation, and then, okay. Something once each turn. Yeah. Okay, and then here's another rare suggestion that we had for black, which is double all exploit triggers. Or maybe just sacrifice triggers. Exploit Harmonicon. You know, I guess that's kind of like Necroduality in Crimson Vow. Because a lot of the zombies you'll be doubling have exploit. Or maybe just creature spells you cast have exploit. Would it be creature spells? That's what I was thinking is drill. Creatures you control have exploit. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. And then, whenever you sacrifice a creature, surveil 1, then you gain 1 life. Whenever a creature exploits... Ooh, okay, that's cool. Whenever a creature you control exploits another creature, but then it's going to be pretty awkward saying who I'm putting the counters on. 2 +1/+1 counters on it. But I don't think you can just say whenever a creature you control exploits. Because I don't think that's how they word it. Whenever Diver Scab exploits a creature. Ooh, what about this? Creatures you control have exploit, and when this creature exploits another creature, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Does that come across more clearly? Or we could say onto this creature. You missed a word there. Sorry. Creatures you control have exploits, and when this creature, another creature, thank you. Maybe you give it a name with some kind of flavor of an entire population turning against itself, a la the Purge. Oh, that's pretty cool. Purge vibes. Hour of Lawlessness. Doesn't do much itself, so it can be pretty cheap. Hour of... Call it Fortnite. Morals failings. Hour of devastation. Night of Thesaurus. On this creature. Thank you. That makes sense. Night of Carnage. Carnage Night. Decadence. Also exploits a creature. I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's how the other exploit creatures are worded. It just feels weird to like give it an ability to put 2 counters on itself when it's no longer going to be on the battlefield. Evil. Depravity. Hour of Depravity. Does that work? Try telling that to Silumgar Scavenger. Oh, okay. All right, let me see. I don't remember what that one does. Oh, right. No? Silumgar Scavenger is worded appropriately. But that's because it doesn't have a whenever this exploits a creature. It's just whenever another creature you control dies. But it can give itself haste even if it exploits itself. Oh, okay, let me see. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Silumgar Scavenger. It gains haste until end of turn if it exploited that creature. No, because if it exploits itself, it won't. Then this ability never triggers in the first place because it only says whenever another creature you control dies. So then it won't get the +1/+1 counter. It won't gain haste because you don't trigger this entire thing. it is still like weird. Like they have to put on the weird if it exploited that creature workaround. So like, yeah, it's not like a perfect templating. It is kind of awkward, but all right. Do we like 2 mana for this? It doesn't do anything on its own, but it does let all of your creatures exploit other things and become huge. It wouldn't mean much. It'd look for the creature to put the counters on, but wouldn't find it if it's in the graveyard. Yeah, you're right, Cyber5. It probably should just say exploits a creature, because that's the templating of all the other ones that do say that. We can figure out its mana cost in testing. Mana value. Who knows? 2 for now. Okay, cool. So then that's a, yeah, it's a pretty cool one. Let's go Hour of, I guess this doesn't itself have exploit, but it gives exploit. So I think that can count for there. Cool. Red. Whoops. Oh, we actually don't really want to be looking at mythics right now. We're just looking at rares. Also, should change the name of Plague Doctor on the sheet. Thank you. All right. Okay, so what is this? Spell Elemental, it's a 5 mana 0/0. As an additional cost to cast it, exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand or graveyard. Enters the battlefield with +1 counters equal to the exiled card's mana value. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a copy of the exiled spell. You still pay its costs. Okay, so this does work a bit with the red-black graveyard theme. Can you scroll up the list to here? Move my head out of the way. I guess I can. No, don't move me. I can move all of that since you don't really need to see the top stuff, and then I can make this a bit taller. I mean, down to red. That works. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, this does do some stuff with the graveyard theme. Just so it's not completely dead if you have no spells in your graveyard, it does also do exile spells from your hand if you want. That said, it is like an instant or sorcery-based card, which the set's not doing, but every set still has instants and sorceries. It's probably fine to have a rare that cares about it. And I mean, assuming that your spell is huge, this could be a 5 mana 7/7. Okay. You're bringing up Living Lore. So star for 4. As it enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Its power and toughness are each equal to the exiled card's mana value. Whenever it deals combat damage, you may sacrifice it. If you do, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Okay, so this is a very similar card. There are a couple differences. Our card costs 1 more. It can exile an instant or sorcery from your hand as well. So far, it's, relatively comparable. Our thing lets you cast it multiple times, but only if you hit the player. Living Lore lets you, and you still have to pay the cost of that spell. And then Living Lore lets you only cast it once, but the creature just has to deal any combat damage to anything. It could be blocked. It could even chump attack just to get the spell. So honestly, I feel like these are kind of comparable. in power level. Or rather, like, the living lore and the spell elemental have a lot of differences, but they're very close. But those differences, I feel like, balance each other out very nicely, so that this is just sort of a 5-mana version of this 4-mana card. They both have some things that they're better at than the other. I guess one thing I am concerned about with our card is that it's got a lot of text, but so does Living Lore. Kind of still feels a little bit too similar in principle. So you're worried about the plagiarism aspect. Fair enough. I'm not sure who designed this exactly. Maybe they were just ripping off Living Lore in the first place. Well, it doesn't do exactly what our set is doing. It does have some graveyard synergy, which we'd want, so we could redesign it to be different, if that's preferable. We do need a red card with enough text to force it to shrink text. Is that a joke about them always putting one of those in Premier sets? Just like putting entirely too much text on a red card. How about when card name deals combat damage to a player, you may return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. And then it has like trample. And then it's like, I don't know, 5/4. I said 5/4, but I put 5/3. I did it twice. And then, like, this plays really well with combat tricks because you play the combat trick on the creature when they try and block it so you don't get value. And then you bring back the combat trick. And then you can do it again. This would pair really well with Sure Strike, for example. This should say whenever, if it's something that could theoretically happen more than once. I guess if we don't want to make it too easy to trigger the effect, we could get rid of the trample and maybe give it like Menace. Or maybe 2 instants and or sorceries from your graveyard at random. Interesting. At random from your graveyard to your hand. Are there any instants that give double strike and a boost? Not currently. I guess that tends to be like an uncommon card. There are commons that give double strike. But no, we don't currently have any. I believe it should be chosen at random. You can look it up to make sure. Let me take a look at... Hold on. I went to the wrong thing there. There we go. Charmbreaker Devils. At the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Yep, that is the Oracle text. That's the main one that I can think of that does that. Maybe have it be 4 red, red. Yeah, I'm not sure if getting 2 at random is more or less busted than getting 1 target 1. It is more chaotic, which red likes. But I think that's fine. This is kind of a cool card. I like it. Spelemental doesn't really make much sense. It's just like a fun name we went with. Okay, but at the very least, it's like a black-red payoff, being a graveyard theme sort of deal. Unstable Spelemental. I guess I don't know that for sure that it'll push you toward black-red, but black-red is just sort of graveyardy in general. Imagine giving it double strike, and the only legal targets are 2 giant growths. Or 2 power doublers. Yeah, so you could give it double strike. Okay, so there should be a double strike card in the set. So you could play the double strike on it. It deals combat damage. You get back 2 giant growths. You cast 2 giant growths on it immediately. They go to the graveyard. You get back 2 giant growths for next turn. Unstable Anomaly. I guess Elemental still works. Okay, so I guess this is a point at which we should just design an uncommon double strike spell. Does that make sense? Yeah. I think, for me, uncommons get a lot easier to design when I'm just, like, working on a different card, and I think that would pair really well with this. So let's see. Unstable Anomaly. So let's make a double strike spell. Probably a red uncommon. Actually, as I recall, we have our full list of red uncommons. We have too many red uncommons. We need to cut some. Yeah, we do. We have like 2 too many because I've already sent 2 here from uncommon. Well, we're going to get another one. And then I'll just have to figure out which ones to cut later. Could be instant. Could be sorcery. Maybe reprint Assault Strobe or Uncaged Fury. Well, I was a big fan of Assault Strobe. I think that's just a single red mana for sorcery speed, double strike. Uncaged Fury is the 3 mana one. That's instant speed. Yes, and he gives +1/+1 and double strike. Until end of turn. Originally from Shadows, but reprinted in M20. Okay, so instant speed double strike is more powerful. I don't know that we have room at common, so maybe double instant speed is better. Would make sense with our monsters. Yeah, we could do an Uncaged Fury reprint. Flavorfully, at least. Yeah, the flavor works. We don't need to get fancy. Like, we could make our own double strike spell if we wanted, but we also don't have to. So, I think this is fine, unless anybody has like any particular design for a double strike spell, which I do love them. So, like, I enjoy designing them. But you're right. This just does like fit with what our creature does. Because you combo it with that rare, and you're getting a 6/5 double strike trample. That gets back the Uncaged Fury and probably something else. Seems very powerful. But it is a 6-drop creature with sub-vanilla stats, and it doesn't do anything immediately. It has to get in for damage. So it's like very vulnerable to removal. So that balances it quite a bit. Okay, cool. Yeah, we have way too many red uncommons and probably not enough of the others. Rare, but not mythic rare. Okay, so back to red. We had Phoenix of Revelation. Okay. Okay, so I checked the Mystical Archives slots for reference if we want to use that as a benchmark for the case files. Sure. We definitely need to figure out what our case file slots are going to look like. I seem to recall they had like 3 mythics. Four rares. And like 3 or 4 uncommons in the case files for each color. Maybe it could be a Phoenix that reanimates itself if you surveil enough. Oh, that's true. We do need to care about surveil now. Hold on. Let me fix the... Blue has surveil. Green has mutant. Red has... Whatever. I can... whatever. This works. Surveil! Okay. Each color has 3 cards at Mythic, 5 cards. Rare has 5 cards for each color and 5 enemy color cards at Rare. Uncommon has 3 for white, green, and 4 for blue, black, red. Yeah, I always thought that was weird. I guess just the size of the printing sheet dictated that they be 2 short, or rather 3 tall. Okay, so Cyber5 suggested it could be a Phoenix that reanimates itself if you surveil enough. So currently it is 3/3 Flying Haste. Exile it from your graveyard and put a face-down card you own in exile into your graveyard. So it's kind of an undercover payoff. You may cast this from exile on a later turn, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, so I always sort of felt a little bit like this design was excessively complex. It's basically trying to take the place, like you play an undercover card. Once your undercover card dies and goes to undercover exile, you can basically switch these. You put the Phoenix from your graveyard into the undercover slot and vice versa. Maybe it reanimates if you've surveilled 3 or more cards this turn and a way to exile it from your graveyard to surveil 3. Or you may cast it from your graveyard if you've surveilled this turn. Surveilled spelled with 2 L's? 1. I think it's 2. Because surveillance, I know, has 2. Okay, feels like I put a cap on the font size here. I did. I mean, it's pretty cool because, you know, if you're in a surveil deck, you can just put this straight into your graveyard, effectively drawing a card. I guess Phoenixes tend to not have, like, high toughness often because they don't need it because they just come back to life. And it doesn't suffer from the Arclight Phoenix effect. What Arclight Phoenix effect would that be? Oh, that is just like free? just getting them out from your graveyard all at once if you have multiples of them. Yeah, like you still have to pay for it. I don't know. 3/2 for 4, flying haste. I mean, it seems like a fairly like standard Phoenix stat line, which is of course like that's what Arclight Phoenix is. So do we like that? Birds in the red zone can be a problem. Yeah, Arclight Phoenix was silly. Very silly. You think it works? Okay, this works for me. Probably what red wants to do with Surveil. Yeah, I mean, it's a good payoff for black-red. Or, blue-red. Although, I mean, black-red does graveyard stuff, too. Okay, so Phoenix of Revelation. Surveil. Iconic. Blue-red payoff. It doesn't actually surveil, but it's a payoff for surveil, so good enough. I'm going to replace this with iconic. Currently, the angel is actually not part of a cycle. So we might need just like an interesting rare cycle. Maybe the name could be changed to. Seems a bit blue. Phoenix of Revelation. Fair enough. Phoenix of Foresight. Phoenix of Terror. I could see black-red also wanting it depending on the availability of Surveil in the colors. Yeah, there's going to be a little Surveil in black because it's going to be a little bit in all colors. Yeah, I think black-red will definitely want to play with a reasonable amount of Surveil. Phoenix of Bernie McBurnburn. Okay, I'm going to go with Phoenix of Foresight until we come up with something better. Because while I like, flavor text should be burn after rekindling. It's kind of funny. Like a hazardous material warning. Okay, then we got Consuming Flame. This is 100% flavored around a set of top secret instructions you burn after reading, but then it pops out and it's a bird. Here, let's just, boop. Makes me think they use phoenixes as test subjects since they can't die and can be reused again. I'm just trying to think of a good name. Yeah, I mean, this is like very generic. One of my favorite flavor texts from another game is replace the following if damaged. Heatsink magazine operator. That's good. Okay, we have Consuming Flame, which is a 2/2 first strike for red. If a creature dealt damage by a source you control this turn would die, instead exile it. Then Consuming Flame deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. So this hates on Undercover. It's a 2/2 first striker. And then instead of killing the creature, it exiles it and burns the opponent's face. So it's like a very aggressive card against Undercover, which is a slow deck. And then also just literally means that they can't like block with their Undercover creatures. It's at rare. It's fine to include hate for your set mechanics at rare. Seems fine if like... I think this might want to be a 2/1. Yeah, that's reasonable. So it like still loses to a 1/3. So it's not just like unbeatable. Could maybe be a human since we already have a rare elemental. That's a good point. Thank you. Red card for red decks. Oh yeah, it's sweet. It doesn't like do the things our set is doing. It in fact hates on the things our set is doing, but I think that's fine. Rioter. Yeah, I think the flavor of this is a vigilante who's out to uncover all of the hidden creatures, all the hidden monsters. I guess if it's a bowman, it needs reach. I think having a few hoser cards is good/healthy as long as they aren't oppressive enough to negate the mechanics entirely. I agree. And I think that this is not going to negate the mechanic entirely. First of all, it's rare. So the likelihood that you come up against it while you're playing your Undercover deck is not terribly high. That said, it is like a very good stat line. 2/1 first strike for 2. So like red decks will play it. But also, it can be blocked now with a 1/3. So basically, as long as you're not playing only Undercover creatures and you play some other defensive bodies, you're kind of good to go. See, Narset Parter avails. Yeah, this should really just be each player. I don't know. Maybe the Phoenix could also be Torchlight Phoenix, or maybe Petroleum Phoenix, or some other scientific burnable substance. I like the idea of a scientifically burnable substance. He wasn't always a bird on fire. What's a burnable substance? Bustable gases. Chlorine trifluoride is the most flammable gas. I don't know. Methane Phoenix. Paper is burnable. I don't know about that. Sorry. Gunblade suggests maybe this should be a detective or the hot-headed officer who is a loose cannon, but damn it, he gets the job done. Not the Phoenix. Yeah, okay, cool. Just going to copy that into here. Loose cannon. What do Bunsen burners run on? I think it's just propane? Propane. I mean, that kind of makes it sound like a fart phoenix. I'll sell phoenixes, and Phoenix is sex. Apparently, I can't speak. Okay, that joke is probably actually a little too fourth wall. Now I want a person that sells phoenixes. Oh boy. It's going to be like Squirrel Dealer from Unstable, but with phoenixes. And then like the dude's trench coat is just on fire. And he's like, I guess this was a bad idea. Phoenix Link sounds horrifying. Okay, we have just a couple minutes left before I need to get off for the night. So, anything else that we want to cover before we finish it up? Do we like these cards as they are? Did you have any last minute ideas that you wanted to get in on our to-do list? I'm thinking for next time we can finish going through the rares and then maybe get on our to-do list. It's gotten kind of long since I've been basically using it for the entire time that we were revising the commons, and we haven't gotten to actually doing most of the stuff on the list yet. All of our mythics should be captured planeswalkers. I think just having one captured planeswalker is probably good enough. We've already sort of stolen and science-sized her spark. You see, we finally caught one planeswalker too. Wait, where did they go? For this experiment, you will require one standardized, ionized, scientificized owl. I do actually really like the name as just loose cannon. Actually, Phoenix Owl does sound like a really cool design. So yeah, I guess that's a combination of like red and blue. And, ooh, it's just like whenever it enters the battlefield, you scry one. So that's like the owl part of it. And then the Phoenix part of it is that it just comes back from the graveyard. And then every time you get to scry one. That's from the Rotate Your Owl song. Okay, I wasn't quite sure what the joke was there. Maybe I'll look that up. We've had a Phoenix Owl. It was a scourge of its standard format. Rekindling Phoenix. Oh, so we have. So we have. Yeah, it's just very hard to kill. Yeah. That is true. I forgot about the one looking like an owl. Yeah, it doesn't actually have the type owl, but maybe it's just sort of, like zombies don't have the human type. It supersedes it. They're human zombies, but they don't actually have the human type. So maybe phoenixes are the same way. A phoenix can be of any bird type, but it's just called a phoenix. Rekindling Phoenix has lovely art. I just hate everything else about it. It's just so hard to kill, right? I mean, yes, all phoenixes come back, but this one comes back for free with haste every time it dies. You have to kill it twice in a row. Penguin Phoenix. Oh, that's funny for the case files. Good idea. If the tokens were paying like 1 red or 2 red and sacrificing to get the bird back, I'd be happier with it. Yeah, I agree. Man, Rivals had some truly like interesting mythics, I feel like. Quite the cast of strong mythics in that set. Curse of the Fire Penguin. Oh yeah, I guess they have done that, huh? That's cute. It's adorable. Maybe that's our new mascot for the stream. Forget about Bidoof. I recently saw someone ask for black border penguins on Blogatog. Well, considering how long it took him to get squirrels back into the game, I would not hold my breath too much for penguins. I think penguins might be even sillier than squirrels are. Just set Bidoof on fire, then he'll be good. Or dead. Either way, it's not a problem anymore. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. We got some good stuff done. Basically, cataloging some of the rares that we do have, and also coming up with ideas for what we might fill our empty spaces with. We definitely got some good work done on actually changing some rares. The Phoenix changed a lot. The Unstable Anomaly changed a lot. We got Skin Snagger. Changed the Amoral Crony. Face Taker I like a lot more now. It's very cool. We probably still need to cut Ixodries, but whatever. So thank you all so much for coming and hanging out and giving your ideas. I had a lot of fun as always. Please have a great night or, whenever it is, wherever you are. And hopefully I will see you again